This is the official Nintendo Power strategy guide for Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Ignore the fact that it's very beat up, but back in the day before everyone had access to the internet by just reaching into their pockets, this was how we got information on our games. These guides are so iconic, and we've looked at one or two of these strategy guides in the past on the channel, but I feel like the early 2000s when Ruby and Sapphire released were the prime time for these strategy guides. Today, we'll be playing Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire the intended way. We had to work around with the title a little bit since we kind of already did this a few years ago with the Brady Games guide, but this is the Nintendo Power guide. The front cover of the guide doesn't show much, just the game's titles, while on the back, adventure calls. We answer. Aside from that, it's very basic information about the game. Then this screenshot of a level 38 Claydol going for Hyper Beam on a level 25 Goldeen. As if the pros at Nintendo and Nintendo Power would ever really think going for this is a good idea. There's a lot of clues we can use in this guide, and this is not one of them. Maybe that's why Nintendo Power went away over a decade ago, but opening the book, we have a table of contents alongside a map of Hoenn, which we can travel by foot, bicycle, boat, and other methods. Not too sure what they mean by other methods. But next to that, it shows all the key trainers in the game, like Team Magma and Team Aqua, who want to increase the world's landmass and drown the world respectively, in order to create more habitats for Pokemon. I'm not sure which one is dumber than the other, and they definitely don't have any other evil ulterior motives with these plans. But they also just lump Steven in the section with the gym leaders in this guide, even though he isn't a gym leader. On the next page, we get a grip, and the guide even explains stab, or same type attack bonus here, but it doesn't just flat out call it stab. We learned about abilities and how even Truant can be useful somehow. Then when discussing natures, it says, do you want a Skitty that wields its attract like a Cat 09 Tails in combat? Nintendo, I have no idea what that means. Then it even tells us what the egg groups are, and to float like a Beautyfly, sting like a Volbeat. Big kind of reach there, Nintendo, but at least you're trying. One cool thing I noticed on page 23 was that it said if you see a commercial for certain things on the TV in-game, it would actually have an impact on the gameplay. Like if there was a commercial for the game corner, you might have better odds in the casino. It talks a bit about double battles too, which were new at the time, and even contests which expose a whole new side to your Pokemon. The actual walkthrough has a checklist, and since I couldn't find my copy of Pokemon Sapphire, we'll just be playing Pokemon Ruby for this video, and using only this guide to beat Pokemon Ruby the intended way. The first thing I notice in the walkthrough part of the guide is that it's pretty bare bones. It does tell us to take the potion out of the PC and to get our starter Pokemon, but it doesn't tell us reasons to pick each individual starter and just says to choose carefully. I picked Trico because I figured it's a grass-type Pokemon, and earlier on the guide said Hoenn had a lot of water, and water is weak to grass, so it just made sense. Or should I say, grass mops the floor with water, to say it how the guide put it. I named Trico Subscribe because, well, if you aren't already subscribed, you probably should. And if that subtle 10-second or less subscribe plug upset you in a free video that takes over a week to make, you can just go cry about it. Our next step is Oldale Town, a bustling spot despite its size. There's literally 3 people here and 4 buildings. We do at least get a free potion here and have a quick rival battle up north that just tells us what Pokemon our rival will have. On Route 102, we see berries for the first time and are told to replant them after we take some, so we do. And in case you're wondering, yes, there is a full berry page on the back of the guide that even details where to find each berry, as well as other information like a Pokedex, where to find each item, and what each move does. PETALBURG City is the first place you'll encounter a Pokemon gym, and coincidentally, it's your dad's gym. Stock up on supplies at the Pokemon Mart and visit Norman, your dad, inside of the PETALBURG City gym. One day, you'll have to battle your powerful dad, but that's a long time off. Oh, and if you didn't know, your dad, Norman, is the gym leader here. The first thing the guide tells us to do here is talk to this person in the Pokemon Center to make our Pokemon trainer profiles and upgrade our trainer card later on. We then have a visit with Dad, Norman, and help Wally catch his very first Pokemon. That's all we can do in PETALBURG City for now, but there's a lot to do when we come back here later on, like fight the gym. On Route 104, we catch a Tailo I named Twitter, and you should follow me on Twitter by the way, link in the description, and head into the PETALBURG Woods. The guide doesn't detail any trainer items at all or even wild Pokemon, so I've only been catching Pokemon if the guide says I can catch a Pokemon or if a certain type is recommended for a battle and we don't have it. As we make it through the woods, we see the flower shop and our first double battles, and I just wanted to note how playing these games super casually is a lot of fun. Since I stream a lot of Nuzlocke on Twitch, I tend to focus on playing super well and not wanting to lose any of my Pokemon, or make any mistakes, making sure my Pokemon have good natures and stuff like that, and not having to worry about anything like that is pretty nice for once. When we arrive in Rustboro City, we get the Cut HM and then go back to catch a Slakoth to trade for this Makuhita, since the guide suggested fighting type Pokemon for our dad's gym, which we'll need later on. For Roxanne's gym, it says that she uses rock and ground and rock type Pokemon, which is worded kinda strangely, but it just means that the Pokemon she uses are either rock and ground type or just rock type. We have grass type moves on Trico like the guide recommends, and after laying waste to her team with Trico, it evolves into Grovyle. When we exit the gym, a thief is on the loose and we have to chase them down and defeat them to return the stolen goods to the Devon Corporation and get the Pokénav as a reward from Mr. Stone. He then tasks us with taking a letter to his son Steven in Dewford City, which also happens to be the location of the second gym, and we can get there by taking Mr. Briney's boat across 105, which also passes through the Island Cave. Not sure why the guide details the Island Cave now, since that's where you get Regice way later on in the game. Now that we're in Dewford, we can get the Old Rod and fight the gym before heading into the Granite Cave. We have Tailo, and the guide suggests flying types. On top of that, it also suggests the move Wing Attack, with Tailo just learned recently, so we end up defeating Brawly without taking any damage at all. Then we meet Steven in the Granite Cave, catch an Aeron, and set sail again on routes 107 and 108 into Slateport City. There's a ton to do in Slateport City, like check out the Soda Pop shop and see Mr. C. Identity theft is not a joke, Beach Boy. Then we deliver something to the captain and check out the museum that's infested with actual criminals and no one seems to care but us. We can return to Slateport City later on, but for now we go to Route 110 and make a quick stop at the Trick House. We technically don't need to do this, but we get some levels around here by battling the trainers and a rare candy as the reward. This leads us to a rival fight, and all the guide says is that our Pokemon should be a similar level to our rivals, and I guess they were since we won the fight. I also caught a Gulpin. The guide didn't tell us to catch Gulpin here. I actually don't even end up really using Gulpin in this video. And this is not supposed to be some sort of weird joke. Swalot is just my favorite Pokemon if you couldn't tell. People think I'm joking when I say that sometimes, but it's literally in my avatar now. After that, we arrive in the buzzing hub of Mauville City in the center of Hoenn. Here we get a Rock Smash HM and the bike that we can use to cycle back to Slateport City, and get the Harbor Mail in order to trade it for a coin case back in Mauville City so we can go visit the game corner. I also want to show this funny glitch with a trainer near Mauville City that just walks right through this ledge. The guy didn't tell us to do it, I just couldn't resist whenever I get to Mauville City because I always think it's so funny. Then we fight Wally in front of Watson's gym to show him that he isn't ready to take on the gym leader yet. Kind of brutal, but the guide said it and they weren't lying. Wally really isn't ready. For Watson's Electric-type gym, the guide recommends Ground-type Pokemon, but it doesn't say where we can get a Ground-type, and I don't even know how many Ground-types we have access to at this moment in the game. The closest thing we have to it is a Mudslap on Aeron, which is rather weak, although there's a picture in the guide of an Aeron also going for Mudslap here. And I lost the gym on the first attempt, and we ended up actually losing to Watson more than one time. We are a little bit under leveled, so I just level up a little bit and keep trying, so we can do massive damage and get the Dynamo Badge. The next couple of pages show Route 117 in Verdant Turf, where we meet Wally's family, and can see if our Pokemon like us, then get the Attract TM, which will actually be important later on. Next, we can head on over to Route 111 and take a quick TV interview with these TV reporters. I always liked this feature of the game since it made you feel more immersed in the world, and even though these interviews were all just you saying one word, they were pretty nice. We can also get the Secret Power TM, see this berry girl, my kind of girl, and go into the Fiery Path. This takes us to Route 113 where we have a Ninja Boy ambush and Mackett evolves into Makuhita. There's also this glass shop where they make items out of glass and constantly huff and puff here. I really wonder what type of glass instruments they're making here and what they're using them for. But then in Fall Arbor Town, which is right next to this house, it specifically says how the citizens grow some hardy plants. I'm not sure what Nintendo is trying to imply here, but I'm sure Fall Arbor is a big tourist attraction for these plants. Also in Fall Arbor Town, we meet Lynette, who runs the PC storage system, and on Route 114, we get Dig from the Fossil Maniac's house, and Roar from this guy with his Poochyena. There's even another berry enthusiast here that gives us one different berry per day. Now we can check out the Meteor Falls, where Team Magma and Team Aqua are fighting, and Professor Cosmo is just there watching. There isn't really much we can do here at the moment, so we circle back to Route 115 and back towards Mauville City to go all the way up to Mount Chimney and see Team Magma again. Team Magma and Team Aqua are gathering their forces atop Mount Chimney. each trying to thwart each other's goals. After one of the team makes off with the meteorite from Meteor Falls, the cable car on Route 112 will open up for service again. Ride the cable car to Mount Chimney's summit to stop the thieving team from using the meteorite. Here we have a battle for the meteorite against Maxie, and I heard that in older versions of this guide, they accidentally said that both Archie and Maxie have a Camerupt on their team, but Archie has a Sharpedo instead. My version doesn't have that issue, but Bulbapedia documents it as a mistake for this guide. This takes us to the township of Laveridge, where we can relax, get a Pokemon egg, and prepare to fight Flannery in her Fire-type Pokemon gym. The guide recommends water types and the move Water Gun and Bubble Beam specifically, which we don't have either of. So I checked the back of the guide to see what water types and water moves we have access to, and noticed that we ran into Meryl's prior on Route 117, so I go back there to catch one. I tried asking Twitter for a nickname for this Meryl, but none of them were great. But if you notice in Meryl's Dex entry, it says how there's oil in its tail, and somebody responded with this really funny meme that I thought was hilarious. We grind Meryl up to match Flannery's gym, where it evolves into a Zoomerl, then use Bubble Beam against her team. We have to watch out for Torkoal's super powerful fire move Overheat, although she never goes for it, so that's just 4 badges down for us. Next we can travel back to Petalburg City to fight our dad Norman and his normal type team. The guide suggested fighting type Pokemon when we saw it the first time when we were in Petalburg City earlier, which is why we have this Hariyama on the team in the first place. It then suggests moves like Sleep Powder, Sing, and Attract, which I guess kind of work against Truants, so we teach Attract to Swallow to use on his final Slacking. It didn't say anything about what gender his Pokemon were, so I wasn't sure which Pokemon to give Attract to, but then I noticed that in the picture there was a male Slacking that the guide writer was fighting against, so I just assumed all of his Pokemon were male. This Attract strategy does at least work on his final Slacking, allowing us to get badge number 5, and then the Surf HM so we can progress to the second half of the game. Having Surf opens up routes 118 and 119 where we can go fishing like a pro. When the fisherman standing on Route 118's eastern shore asks you if you think the good rod is good, answer yes. We have a fateful encounter with Steven, see some sus trees, and trek up north to the Weather Institute. Here we have to defeat Team Magma in the name of science to free the scientists that are being held captive, and get a cast form as a reward. The Pokemon cast form holds Mystic Water, so you get both items when the professor gives you the cast form. Mystic Water improves one Pokemon's water type moves. I just thought that was a weird way to word it. After the Weather Institute, we fight our rival, although it shows the rival before the Weather Institute in the guide. It again doesn't really say too much about this fight, aside show us what level our rival's Pokemon are. And after the battle, we arrive in FORTREE City. Here we can use our Hidden Power by getting the Hidden Power TM, and get the Devon Scope on Route 120 so we can reveal the hidden Kecleons and enter the gym. The FORTREE City Pokemon Gym is a haven for flying-type Pokemon and their trainers. You'll need to negotiate a maze of revolving doors to reach the gym's 4 trainers and eventually face Winona. Each trainer uses flying-type Pokemon, some of which are dual types, bringing at least one strong Ice, Electric, or Rock-type Pokemon with corresponding move types to face Winona. Moves like Thunder, Electric type, and Rollout, Rock type, are extremely powerful against Winona's Pokemon. Aron evolved into Lairon here, and we taught it Rock Tomb to help out for the specific gym, and our egg hatched into a Wynaut as well that I just don't end up using. Now we can see the rest of Route 120, including this rare berry girl who gives us a rare berry, the Scorched Slab where we can make it a sunny day with Team 11, and pass by Registeel's Cavern. Route 120 leads us to Route 121 where we see the meddling teams. They rush off for Mount Pyre. They're certainly not heading there to pay their respects. Before that, we go to the Safari Zone that's detailed on the following page, and catch a Pikachu there. I also wanted to note that since the guide came out early in Gen 3's lifespan, a lot of the Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon's artwork, like this Pikachu, have their older Gen 1 or 2 artwork featured since a lot of their arts weren't updated yet at the time that this guide released. After clearing out Mount Pyre and seeing the red and blue ores, we make it to Route 123. An optional route full of berries, including the Berry Master's house, which has its own berry patch for you to plant berries in. Truly a berry lover's paradise. There's not much else around here aside from Lily Cove City, one of the largest cities in the Hoenn region. Here we learn that Pokemon trainers have fans too, can shop till we drop, and battle our rival again. For some reason the guide says we should have at least one electric type for this battle. Although electric isn't that good against our rival, depending on which starter you picked especially, as if you started with Torchic, your rival will have 2 ground type Pokemon and only 1 electric weak Pokemon. At least we have Pikachu so we can use in the fight because the guide said to use electric types. After a quick stop in Slateport City, we can go back to Lily Cove City and enter the team's hideout. Here we follow the leader, get the Master Ball, and for some reason the guide has a picture of a level 50 Sableye battling a level 30 Electrode here. I have no idea what the people at Nintendo were doing to get a level 50 Sableye at this point in the game, when my highest level is only about level 35. Now we have a ton of water routes where we head beyond the reef and into Moss Deep City. Tourists and Moss Deep City natives gather along the island shores to watch Whalmer together. I thought I saw a Whalmer when I first got here, but it just turned out to be your mom. Moss Deep City is also home to some new Pokeballs in the Net Ball, which work best on Water-type Pokemon and Bug-type Pokemon. We learn that Super Rods are super, then take on the gym leaders, Tate and Liza. Mysterious psychic powers emanate from the Moss Deep City's Pokemon Gym. The Pokemon Gym trainers inside train with their psychic-type Pokemon. Traveling in the gym can be almost as challenging as defeating the mystical duo that awaits you at the end, gym leaders Tate and Liza. You'll travel along one-way paths to reach each gym trainer and the gym leaders. Levers change the red panel's directions. You must move each lever to reach the gym leaders. Tate and Liza are psychic twins. Their moves are always in sync and they have many hyper potions during your battle with them. The explanation barely tells us anything about the gym outside of the recommended move types chart. It also doesn't suggest ghost type Pokemon, even though we were just at Mount Pyre, which had a ton of ghost Pokemon we could have captured. Luckily, Azumarill and Sceptile made this fight pretty easy for us as they only have 2 rock-type Pokemon. The next page shows Route 125, Shoal Cave, which is optional, but I check it out anyway. The main reason I did was because in the Icy Slip Inside section, it recommends that we encounter and catch a Snorunt, and the guide very rarely suggests we catch a Pokemon, let alone a specific Pokemon. After that, we have some more water routes and then the Seafloor Cavern. The Seafloor Cavern lies deep beneath Routes 128 Dark Waters. Team Magma or Team Aqua is at the cave searching for an ancient legendary Pokemon. The Seafloor Cavern is a tricky maze of doorways that often lead back to the entrance. You'll need a Pokemon that can use Strength and Rock Smash to navigate the cave's obstacles. Here we learn that Team Magma stole the submarine. Never really thought about that, but just the idea of stealing a submarine is bizarre to me. The guide also said nothing about the fight against Maxie at the end here, which was strange. Then Groudon goes berserk and flies away. Then, where is Sootopolis? I remember having a hard time finding Sootopolis when I first played Ruby as a kid, but as an adult with a strategy guide, I can find it no problem now. Here we have some rare berry trees, a doll lover, I hardly know her, and a couple of other small things to check out once the town opens up more. For now, we need to go to the Cave of Origin to meet Wallace, who is also the gym leader of this town, learn the origin of Waterfall by getting the Waterfall HM, and catch Groudon, the cover legendary Pokemon. The guide says it's one of a kind, and we only have one chance to catch it, so this seems like a good time to use our Master Ball. I'm also assuming that since Groudon's on the cover, Nintendo intends for us to use it. Now we can fight Wallace's gym and his Water-type foes with our Grass-type Sceptile and Electric-type Pikachu. This was pretty easy for us since our starter actually did something here. Don't get me wrong, I like Sceptile and all, but it's pretty bad throughout most of the game compared to Torchic or Mudkip, and this at least gives us our 8th and final gym badge in the Hoenn region. The next few pages show a lot about water routes like 129 and 130, and even Mirage Island. I was a bit surprised to see that here since the chances of us seeing it are so low, since if you don't know, Mirage Island only appears on very certain days of the year and it's hard to calculate exactly when that day is. I've actually never even seen it legitimately before, and I remember trying a lot when I was a kid playing Ruby version. Then we have Pacifilog Town, a few more water routes because it's the Hoenn region of course, and then strangely enough the Sealed Chamber. I didn't expect this to be featured here before the champion, but the guide says it's optional and takes a lot to do, so we just skip it in favor of going to Evergrande City. Here we have the Victory Road. To reach the Pokemon League, you must survive Victory Road, which is less of a road than a labyrinth blocked by rock debris. With lots of would-be Pokemon League champions and powerful wild Pokemon crowding the Victory Road, it's easy to lose your way. So close yet so far. The Elite Four will never seem so distant. We have to muscle through here, battle the last of the Winstraight family, then battle Wally right at the exit of Victory Road. It doesn't really say too much for Wally here or even showcase his team, but looking at the picture that the guide shows, it has them using a level 69 Sharpedo against Wally, so they were quite over-leveled, much like that Sableye we saw earlier. Now for the Pokemon League. Here we prepare by getting a ton of items, and the guide says to focus on stab moves for the 1.5 times bonus and make sure all of our Pokemon are at least level 45. There's some recommended types and Pokemon as well, and we end up having 5 of the 6 recommended types on the team, as well as 3 specific Pokemon the guide suggests, after swapping out our Swellow for Snorunt in the PC. We level it up a bit and evolve into Glalie, giving us a valuable Ice-type Pokemon. I'm really trying this time around to focus as much as I can on doing exactly what the guide says, but I just didn't like the idea of swapping out half of our team at the very end of the game for Pokemon we haven't even used or caught yet. First in the Elite Four is Sydney. Sydney stocks his team with Dark-type Pokemon, so you'll want to strike with Fighting-type attacks. But if you bring Fighting-type Pokemon into battle, pull them out when Sydney's Shiftry and Absol enter the field. They'll obliterate your Fighting types with Extra Sentry and Aerial Ace attacks respectively. When his Grass and Dark-type Pokemon battle, use Bug Strikes to inflict extra damage to them. Such moves will get a dual damage multiplier. Don't use Psychic types. His team will use Dark-type moves to crush them. I noticed a lot of weird wording in the Elite Four section, almost as if somebody else wrote this section independently from whoever wrote the rest of the guide, since it said the word strikes a lot instead of just moves or attacks. For Phoebe, it says to focus on Dark-type moves or Ghost-type moves from non-Ghost-type Pokemon, so I use Glalie with Crunch since it's the best option we have right now. It also makes no mention of the move Curse, which can be really annoying to deal with in this battle, and says nothing about how Sableye has no weaknesses either. Glacia was really straightforward since we had Fighting-type Pokemon in Hariyama and Electric-type Pokemon in Pikachu just as the guide suggested for her Ice and Water-type Pokemon. Then for Drake, the salty member of the Elite Four as the guide put it, we use Ice-type moves from Glalie to down his dragons, especially Flygon. I don't know why the guide singled out Flygon, maybe because he has 2 of them, but I think his Altaria with Dragon Dance and his level 55 Salamence are a bit scarier. Now we have the champion, Steven. Steven's Steel-type Pokemon have few weak spots, and they're mostly covered by Dual-type protections. Use Fighting and Ground-type attacks to hammer Aggron with massive damage. Against the other 2 Steel types, use Fire-type attacks, use those plus Electric moves against Skarmory. I don't know what plus Electric moves means, but okay. Steven's other 3 Pokemon are Dual types too. Blitz them with Water and Fighting-type attacks depending on which Pokemon you're facing. Overall, you'll need to counter Steven's Pokemon one by one. As a team, they're nearly invulnerable. I liked how it said Hammer in the section for Steven, but found it weird that they made no mention of Metagross, his ace Pokemon. After blitzing his Steel types with a lot of help from Groudon, we defeat Steven, making us the champion of the Hoenn region, meaning we beat Pokemon Ruby how Nintendo intended, or the intended way. Overall, this guide was okay since it did tell us how to get through the game, but I was shocked by just how little it detailed enemy teams, didn't tell us very much at all about specific Pokemon to catch or what Pokemon were located on every route while we were going through each route, and didn't show many trainers' teams outside of the rivals and the gym leaders. It still worked, I guess, since we were able to beat the game, and there was no point where I felt like somebody could have been lost if they were using just the guide alone and never played this game before. And this guide is 20 years old after all, so I can't really be too harsh on it, I guess. It was still neat seeing the official Nintendo Power Guide since I don't see many Nintendo Power Guides specifically, they're mostly Prima or Brady Games guides. Even though I do think the Brady Games guide we looked at for Ruby and Sapphire a while ago was a bit better than this one. With all that out of the way, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, have a great rest of your day, I'll see you all next time, and bye bye.